what's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, today we are talking about quarterback Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. And this is a really interesting prospect, right? Big dude, big arm, very mobile, kind of fits all of the things that I think, the most people would say the NFL is going towards, right? You want a mobile quarterback, you want a guy with a big arm, you want a guy who can stand tall in the pocket, check on all those things. Look, I really like a lot of things about Trey Lance. We're going to get into everything I think about this player. Let's get into it right now. First, we're going to do the film portion of this video where I break down some of the skills. Not really like a film study or anything like that. There's a lot of channels on YouTube that do that and do it really well. For me, I'm just kind of taking clips that I saw that I think, talk about specific skills from the player that I wanted to bring up. So I have a little bit longer film study that I normally do for my draft profile videos because it's the quarterback and it's so much more important. Then we're going to get over to the skill chart, and then obviously at the end I'll talk about what I think about the player, where I think he goes, fits, and things like that. All of that is in the description below because this is a little bit longer of a video. I put the time codes in the description if you want to skip around or watch specific things. Totally okay. Don't blame me a bit. Let's get right into it. So the first thing we have to talk about is obviously the mobility, and I just put together a bunch of clips here, and I don't need to explain it any farther than you probably already know if you've heard his name or have paid attention to the draft at all up to this point. We know it. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, but he's going to be in that next tier down when you talk about just his ability to create yards and threaten the defense with his legs. Yeah, he's in that next tier down, probably better than Josh Allen, I would say, as far as just pure running ability. I think, I would honestly, and this might be bold, I would probably say he's better than Jalen Hurts, who I think he ran, a 4.59 coming out of college. And I don't know what Trey Lance ran. I don't care. The pro day numbers are just so far off that it's not worth looking up because whatever it was is just not accurate to what it would be at the combine. So I don't think those numbers would be comparable. Either way, I do believe he's probably more mobile and will be a little bit even more dangerous than Jalen Hurts, who was obviously very dangerous at the back end of the 2020 season with the Eagles. Next thing we have to talk about is arm talent. This dude has a big arm. He has such a piss missile just across the field. Pretty much can get it anywhere on the field. You'll see him throw this seam route down the middle, gets it to his tight end on a rope. You gotta love that. You see this out route here. He just can fire it on the far side. He can get it to the outside of the numbers there. He does have a big arm. These are the things about Trey Lance that make people excited, right? He does have a big arm. He can move. I mean, he is a really exciting prospect. You'll see this deep ball. His deep ball accuracy, I'm not going to sit here and say is awesome, but these two plays right here are good examples of his ability to hit the deep ball. Even though I know neither of those were catches, I don't care. They were good throws. He has a ton of velocity on the ball. RPMs are all good. Rotations per minute. I'm a big fan of stuff like that. And I mean, he's fun to watch when it comes to his ability to just sling the rock. Pocket presence. Now, I really like what I saw with Trey Lance and his ability to maneuver the pocket, avoid rushers, just has that nice little shoulder dip and can get out of trouble very easily. And I love this play specifically because he avoids the rusher, steps into the pocket and makes a throw down the field, and a pretty accurate throw as well. Like, it wasn't perfect, but it was a really good throw overall. I love that about him. I will say I see it way too often that when something like this happens, and this against the same team, similar situation, has a rusher, is able to avoid it, able to evade the sack, and his first instinct is to run down the field. For whatever reason, you saw that more often than I'd probably like. Again, this is not something that bothers me to my core, but it's certainly something that needs to be brought up when you talk about pocket presence. He's not like Zach Wilson, which I mentioned last week in my Zach Wilson video, talking about how he when he does evade pressure, he's always looking down the field until the last possible second when he decides to tuck it. That's not Trey Lance. Trey Lance avoids pressure, can step him in the pocket. I can maneuver the pocket very well, but when things break down, he is looking to throw the ball, and that's fine. Again, it makes sense for the competition that he played and the amount of talent he has running with the football. It doesn't bother me a whole lot that he did in college. It's something that is going to need to coached out of him a little bit. But again, that's going to happen with time. I really don't have a big issue with that at all. So what I want to talk about next is off balance throws. And I want to start with one of my favorite plays of anything that I watched from Trey Lance. And this is a great play in pretty much every single regard. And I think this is like the play that you show people if you are a true Trey Lance believer and you believe in the ultimate upside. You say, hey, this is what he could be doing in the NFL. And it's really exciting. So you see Trey Lance here maneuver the pocket really well. You have this safety coming in from off screen that's blitzing, right? So what that means is probably something open over the middle of the field. Trey Lance is able to step into the pocket and find his man and make a throw while getting hit accurately down the field to somebody who's kind of covered. Like, this dude gets tackled almost immediately. Amazing play on every single regard. Like, pocket presence, check. Off balance / throw under pressure, check. You got, vision down the field, check. All of the things that you want to see from Trey Lance, this is the play you show when you want to talk about a guy who has some legit potential. I'm a big fan of this play, and I absolutely love everything about it. I mean, there's nothing about this play that I don't absolutely love. Moving on, listen, it's not all good with off-balance throws, and more specifically, I'm going to kind of talk about him throwing on the run. It's really hit or miss, and I would say there's more miss than hit when it comes to off-balance throw. That's kind of, the story with Trey Lance in general. There's a lot of mechanical issues here, and we're going to get to that, but I think throwing on the run can be a lot better. Obviously has the athleticism, has the ability to do it, but right there, underthrown ball down the middle of the field, and, most coaches are going to tell you not to make that throw anyway, so it's kind of fine that it hits the dirt there. There's certainly things that are bothersome. Overall, I'll say it a lot with Trey Lance, there's just so much potential. I mean, there's just so much untapped potential. He has an arm, he has a rocket, he has athleticism for days, and it's just about kind of, getting under the hood and fixing a lot of the little things, I think mechanical things especially, that hurt him, as off-balance throws especially. So next thing we have to talk about is his mechanics, and I want to focus on the deep ball first, and then we're going to focus on just the entire arm motion, which is just janky as hell. But first of all, this play I think does my best to pretty much describe everything I don't like about his throwing motion, everything. First of all, did this way too much where he gets the ball, takes a step, and he's just standing. Just standing there. Again, I get it. One season of college football, like, things like this are going to be changed in the NFL. But I mean, he's just flat-footed standing in the pocket. And then, it looks like this is supposed to be a deep route. It looks like the only thing he's looking at is this go route out here. Look at how he throws this ball, right? Look how he dips his hips. He dips down. He kind of launches and kind of explodes out of it to get this ball as deep as he can, right? That's his throwing motion deep down the field. Dips down right there. You see the clear kind of dip, and that's dipping way farther down than I've ever seen an NFL quarterback dip down to make a throw. So I know that's wrong. That is not what it's supposed to look like. Like I always say, I am not a mechanics expert. I am a movement expert, and I can tell when things don't look right. That does not look right. And I will say, and this is purely speculation, so don't quote me on this, I do wonder how much of his arm strength he loses once he gets this fixed, because this is not going to fly in the NFL. Things happen way too fast. There's too much potential for, a guy coming off the edge and getting a sack. There's too much movement. It takes too much from the time he decides to release this ball. Right? Like right here, you can literally see it, because you see the robotic movement of him taking that step or starting to take that step and dipping down. From the time of him deciding to make that throw to him releasing the ball right here, that's too much time. And I know that we're talking fractions of a second, but you'd like that motion to be sped up. You'd like there not to be so much extra stuff going on. And I'm going to use this play right here to kind of show his throwing motion is way off. Like it looks Tim Tebow-ish, and he has 1,000 times better arm than Tim Tebow ever did, right? So don't hear what I'm not saying. But right here, this is just a good example. Like, look how far back he gets to make pretty much any throw. Like, this is his throwing motion, and this is a really good example of it. Obviously, it's a fumble, and I would be worried about that a lot in the NFL, but that fumble's not really the point, because obviously he does that a lot and doesn't fumble. Kind of a janky motion. It's gonna have to be cleaned up, and I'm gonna show this is another good example, because you see the pump, and the pump is like the start of his throwing motion, right? The ball should never be down here when you're throwing the ball. Like, at no point when you're throwing the ball should the ball be, at your hip. Like that's not where your power comes from. That's wrong. That's just wrong. You don't want to see that. And obviously that's a good example because you see the pump, and I think the pump obviously is not exactly the way it looks. I think he gets a little bit higher up, but again, it's just it needs to get fixed at the end of the day. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to know exactly what to do to fix that. I'm sure wherever he goes, coaches are gonna have to feel comfortable that they can get that fixed, and I'm sure they will. And then the next thing here, this is something that bothers me a little bit more, but again, I do think it's fixable. Watch his feet as he makes this throw. He is throwing to this number 0 here that's kind of making an end cut through the middle of the field, right on man coverage there. And look where he steps to make this throw, right? He takes the step towards the sidelines. I mean, honestly, he takes a diagonal step and throws it down the middle of the field. I mean, this step right here, if I only looked at his feet and didn't look at his arms or where the ball goes, I would think he's throwing to the corner of the end zone, because that's where he steps towards. He steps towards the corner of the end zone, tries to throw it down the middle, and I get that it was complete catch, but it was thrown. It was poor ball placement in a position where the receiver probably should have been able to catch that ball and run up the field. Instead, he has to dive for the catch and bring it down. That is a big issue for me. And listen, again, as I said multiple times, that's fixable. I get it. Like, I don't look at any of those issues as something that can't be fixed, but I do consider this a project type of player, right? Like, this isn't a guy that I would want playing year one at all. And I've gotten some pushback by saying that to some of my friends, and I hesitate to say that because I always want to be diplomatic on these videos and kind of view things from every side of the coin. But I'm sorry, I don't see a way where he is a successful starter year one. And I could, that comment could blow up in my face. I could be wrong in that, but from my perspective, this is a dude, you sit for a year, he has some seriously awesome tools, but I would love for him to have the Jordan Love experiment, right? And maybe not go to a team who has a quarterback that's going to win NFL MVP, but that kind of situation where he can go to a team, he doesn't need to start, he's not expected to start, there's no chance of a quarterback controversy, he can sit there, be drafted still in the first round, deserves to be a first round pick based on the tools alone that I mentioned. There's enough there to say, hey, he deserves to be a first round pick, and I'm not fighting against that. I would say I think he should go somewhere around where Jordan Love went last year, and people didn't like the Jordan Love pick, but Jordan Love is almost the same guy in my opinion, as far as they're different players, but both were real big projects that had some unreal upside, and I think that's fair to say about both of these guys. I view them similarly, I grade them similarly as I did last year. Let's get into the skill chart so I can kind of break down Trey Lance in a little bit more detailed way. So pocket presence at a 7.5. Listen, I loved it. Now, I will say I did account his ability to get out of trouble and run and go get yards with his legs into pocket presence a little bit, because, hey, if the play's breaking down and he's able to recognize that and go get yards, create a positive play out of something that could have been a negative play, I give you credit for that. You get points for that in my book. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe I should have left that solely in the mobility or athleticism category. But for me, I feel like all of those things kind of, mix into each other. I felt comfortable giving him an elite grade. 7.5 is an elite grade for me. 7 to 9, that's out of 9, by the way. So 7 to 9 is an elite grade. And I felt comfortable saying that he's elite at pocket presence, because there was really no point that I saw in the games that I watched where he struggled to move in the pocket. I felt like he had good presence in the pocket, and that's what I want to see. So I love that. That was a big thing for me, and a very good grade. Accuracy at a 3.7. Some people might not like that and might think that's too low. Listen, he just missed too many throws for me, and it wasn't just throwing on the run. A lot of the times for me, accuracy, I grade it really hard. This is something that you get points off if it's a catch, but the ball was maybe right in your chest when it should have been a yard in front of him, so the receiver can catch and run. That last play in the film portion, that's a negative grade for accuracy for me. I know the receiver caught the ball over the middle. I don't care. He should have been able to catch the ball and run for extra yards. He shouldn't have had to dive for it. So I grade it hard because I do think it matters. Accuracy is a big thing in the NFL. You want a guy who can throw the ball accurately, right? Now, I will say we've seen it enough times in the NFL. Accuracy is fixable. Listen, and accuracy is not a killer for me. Like the year Josh Allen came out, he was my number one quarterback that year, and he struggled with ball placement as well. The completion percentage was bad. I will say Josh Allen was more accurate than Trey Lance by my memory of college to college prospects. I believe, I feel confident saying that, but that would have been a negative grade for Josh Allen as well, and that was a big thing coming out for him. He fixed it, and I mean, you saw the 2020 season. He is very accurate with the football now. So again, something that is not easily fixed, but very fixable. And if he's willing to put the time in, it doesn't scare me. Like if you're a Trey Lance believer, that is not what should scare you away. Like you can still believe in the talent and be totally okay with it. Arm strength 7.7, yeah, check, positive. I mean, we know he's got a rocket. I did mention, his throwing mechanics down the field I don't love, and we're gonna get to the mechanics in a minute. But I don't really honestly believe that once he gets that fixed or once he fine tunes that, it's going to affect his arm strength. I really don't. I think there's like this much of like a question in my mind. So like I put it out there and I don't know, but realistically, I don't actually think that's going to be a problem. Arm talent, a little bit lower, and people wonder, like, what's the difference? Arm talent's the ability to kind of throw from every angle and things like that. Like, do you have every club in the bag? Can you hit every single throw from every single arm angle? Realistically, nobody can. But for Trey Lance, still good, 6.4. Not something that bothers me, but, like, not ridiculous, like not Zach Wilson level, I would say, because Zach Wilson can really make every throw from every angle, essentially, and he can control not only where the ball goes, but like how the ball gets there, as far as like the arch on the throw and the RPMs and things like that. Trey Lance has a lot of that. Like he has a rope, he can sling the rock. Off balance throws, I didn't see enough of it. I mentioned it in the film portion of the video that it wasn't good. It's not terrible, and again, I heard it was, I believe it was Chris Sims talking about throwing on the run, and it's all just a mechanical thing. And I didn't really think I realized that until very recently when I heard him talking about it on a podcast. And he was just talking about how off throwing on the run specifically is just a fixing of the mechanics. So that was a lot of what threw me off on the off balance throws. I kind of lump in off balance and throwing on the run into one, because you can't have a million different things on this chart. It just wouldn't be realistic. So that's all one grade. And honestly, I've seen him throw with people around him. I've seen him throw, under pressure and things like that, to where I'm not really worried about it. But there was enough there that was negative to where it does end up being a negative grade, but very close to an average to above average grade. Feet in the pocket. I mentioned that the last thing in the video. 3.4, not a great grade for me. It's just all over the place, and he has to get it cleaned up a little bit, and that's okay. Again, you get to aspects of this player. He's a project, and that's part of the project. Release at a 2.8. I hate it. I don't like all this. I don't like the way he throws the ball. I don't like it. It's weird. It doesn't look right. I do think it needs to get fixed. I mentioned it a handful of times in the video. I'm just gonna kind of move past that now. Athleticism, mobility. I mean, this is, again, I like to talk about like the people that like Trey Lance and the people that don't like Trey Lance. The people that don't like Trey Lance are kind of focused on the mechanics, focused on the inaccuracy and things like that. People that like Trey Lance, you focus on the mobility, the athleticism, and the arm strength and the arm talent in general. That's what you focus on. So athleticism, mobility, I don't need to say any more about that. You get it, Mechanics, and it's at 3 right now. I've considered making it higher, because I watched his pro day and I saw that like a lot of the mechanical issues, they mentioned it on the telecast, and you could kind of see it. I don't consider myself a mechanics expert, but there was definitely improvements from like some of the film I showed you in this video. And again, I grade what I see in college. I don't grade a pro day, because a pro day is, it's orchestrated a little bit. So, I don't really know what I'm getting from that. I definitely watched it. I definitely was intrigued by certain things. I think as a team, that's going to be a team to team basis on, do you believe there's real improvement, or do you believe, he can do it for 200 throws, but the muscle memory hasn't been fixed yet. And that's a big thing. I took Josh Allen a couple years to really get it down the way it needed to be. And it's just repetition. It's just like anything, right? So I put it, I really feel bad about it. I'm leaving it at a 3. I'm leaving it at a 3. I almost cut and decided to change it. I'm leaving it at a 3 because of what I saw, and that's what my grade is based on. You guys know how I feel about this dude. You know I think the potential is there. You know that I know, and hopefully you know, mechanics can get a lot better. But based on what I saw on the field in college, leaving it at a 3. Field vision at a 4.1, and that is another negative grade. And again, like, one of my big problems was he did stare down receivers a little bit too much, and again, like, it's a problem. I've seen it happen enough where, like, that can get fixed. I'm not incredibly worried about it. I did think, and this was something that does kind of bother me, I did think his decision making was just a tick slow. There were certain points, and I won't say this happened consistently, but it was enough to at least be worth mentioning, that I did think that, like, he would have a guy open, and it's like, okay, you need to already have started throwing the ball, right? Like, the second you see the guy open, like, he's clearly looking straight at it. That motion needs to start, and I'm kind of looking, and it's just like, just a tick longer than I want it to be for him to start his motion. And in college, his motion was already obviously kind of elongated a little bit already, so that made some errant throws, I think, when he didn't really have to, and things like that. And again, mechanically, that's going to get fixed. And decision making, I think that comes with snaps and reps at the quarterback position. You can't fake that. You can't pretend, put yourself in that moment. That is playing the game type of stuff. And he has one full season of college football, and then one, whatever you want to call that 2020 game. So a problem, sure, nothing that really concerns me. Another thing that does kind of concern me, and definitely worth mentioning, he did not recognize the blitz. Like, his pre-snap reads weren't there, I don't think. Like there were a couple times where it's like, I'm watching the first time, not having gone back and rewatched 100 times as you have to do when you watch these guys and watch the film, but like watching the first time thinking, oh, they're rushing 5 right here. And I get it's a lot easier to be sitting at my computer saying that than it is being in the moment. I'm not trying to compare the two, but you gotta know, like you gotta know you got that extra blitzer, and it became very evident. Oh, he didn't know he was blitzing. He didn't know he was getting blitzed until he got sacked. Like, oh shit, like he just didn't see it. So that is a concern for me, and something, I don't know how that translates to the NFL. I think that kind of remains to be seen with Trey Lance. If I see that in the NFL, I'll certainly, talk about it or make a video on it or something like that. Hopefully that isn't an issue at the next level, and he kind of figures that out with more reps, as I said. And while I still have this skills chart up, I just want to go back, make sure I hit on everything that I want to talk about. I like to do this with quarterbacks specifically, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And just as I'm kind of going through this, stares down receivers, mentioned that. Certainly moments that get you very excited. This is a good quote, I think, that I put down. You got all of the essentials. You got the size, talent, things like that. Mechanics definitely need work, and once the issues get fixed, you certainly have something, and he's certainly worth a shot. But I don't think that the arm talent is what Jordan Love's was last year, right? And it's just a comparison of two guys again. And I want to be very, very clear. Don't hear what I'm not saying. They're not the same player, and I 1,000% understand why people are higher on Trey Lance in general. Just the general public is higher on Trey Lance this year than anybody was on Jordan Love last year. But I think it's fair to point out Jordan Love certainly had a ton of untapped potential that I think could turn into something in the NFL. We'll see. Obviously, went to a situation where he's not starting anytime soon, but we'll see what happens with that. I do believe Jordan Love just had more physical, arm talent alone. Granted, Trey Lance can make up with that with his size, his ability to create out of the pocket and things like that. So worth mentioning for sure. Only other thing that I see here, needs better placement on outside throws, especially. Just felt like he leaves it far too. It leaves it too far inside at times. I don't know. I kind of mentioned that inaccuracy, but definitely worth mentioning. Recognizing the blitz is a problem. Decision making. Dips back in his throws. Ball dies when he rushes delivery. Oh, this is important. Ball when he is about to get hit and he knows it and he has to get it out fast. He has a tendency to rush his delivery, which is only natural, right? You want to get the ball out and not get hit while you're throwing the football. But what happens is the ball just kind of like dies and hits the dirt more often than not. Again, I'm sure that's mechanical. That I think has everything to do with the fact of his weird delivery, and I think that will get fixed. I think that's all I have. Guys, all in all, I look at Trey Lance as a guy who absolutely deserves to go in the first round, right? Like the physical tools alone, has a big enough arm, has the ability to create out of the pocket mobility. He has all the main tools, and the things that he doesn't have, I think, are all teachable. Like everything that I've mentioned as a negative for him, I have seen somebody in the NFL improve on that in the NFL or become very good at it. I think Josh Allen is the best example for lovers of Trey Lance, just to look at where he is versus where he was. And I think that's totally fair. I will say Josh Allen has a bigger arm than Trey Lance. The apples to apples comparison isn't quite there. Like Josh Allen had more physical ability, and I think it was a little bit more polished than Trey Lance is. I don't think they're the same prospect by any means at all, but there's definitely some similarities, and there's definitely some things that you can glean from the Josh Allen experiment into the Trey Lance experiment that that's definitely going to be worth mentioning. The 1 year in college needs to be pointed out. He doesn't have a lot of attempts. Like he doesn't have a lot of passing attempts in the NFL or in college. When you compare like the amount of games, like Mac Jones played in 13 games in 2020, Trey Lance played in 16 games in 2019. Trey Lance had 287 pass attempts. Mac Jones had 402. All right. So that's just a comparison of the amount of times they actually threw the football wasn't a lot. So you don't have a ton of reps at the quarterback position playing quarterback, throwing the football. I know he can run. I know his movement. I'm fine with that. We're good. Check. But his throwing ability is going to be the big question. And it's going to be a lot of mechanics. It's going to be a lot of work in the off season to improve on that. And then it's going to be after, I do think he does need that year off. As I said, I wanted to redshirt, but after that, it's just going to be, hey, get him under center. Let him play some games. Let him get in the heat of the moment. Maybe a team feels like he needs to do that from day one, and that's fine. We disagree. I will not change my stance on that, but a lot of people disagree with me on that. I've gotten pushback saying that a handful of times, and that's okay. That is what it is. I'm not always going to agree with everybody, and I respect other people's opinions, but for me, I don't see why you would want to start him. Anyway, we'll move on. He's going to need reps. He's going to need to improve on every level at being a quarterback. He's going to need to kind of learn the position in the NFL, and that's a hell of a thing to ask somebody. But I mean, if anybody has the physical tools, he certainly does. As far as where I want him to go, or where I could see him going in the NFL, I think 15 is the earliest he's going to go, right? You look at the teams that are looking for a quarterback inside that top 15. If the Bears need a starting quarterback, the Bears need somebody to start right now. You don't want to go into the season with Andy Dalton. They made big swings at Russell Wilson. Apparently they have really pushed hard for Deshaun Watson. Doesn't look like Deshaun Watson's going anywhere anytime soon. So Bears are going to have to draft a quarterback. Bears are probably going to have to trade up to get a quarterback. I don't think you would draft a Trey Lance, because I don't know if you trust him year one to save your job. And I think that's where the Bears have to feel like they're at right now. The coach and GM has to feel like they're in that kind of position. Could Carolina at 8 possibly want a Trey Lance? Maybe. I think they probably want somebody a little bit more ready to start, because it feels like they're ready to move on from a Teddy Bridgewater. You could run it with Bridgewater for the first half of the season and then put Trey Lance in the second half. I could see them going other ways. I'll be honest. I think Justin Fields would probably be the move there if they're needing a quarterback, assuming I have Zach Wilson going at 2. So I don't think that's going to be in contention. Even if they're going to trade up for the Dolphins at 8, or from 8 to 3, they kind of have their pick of the pie. Maybe it's Trey Lance. I'd be surprised personally. It could happen. Really, the teams that I look at, I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers being a team I would love for Trey Lance. That fits what Ben Roethlisberger is. I mean, you talk about two guys that are just big, strong, and tough guys. I mean, those are the same type of dudes, and Ben is on his last leg out. I would think that would fit perfectly. I think that's my favorite spot for Trey Lance. I could see the Colts, they didn't invest a whole lot into Carson Wentz, and maybe get that North Dakota State rivalry going in Indianapolis. It would surprise me if the Colts didn't draft somebody to go in there, and it could be it could be your tier down guys like a Kellen Mond or a Jamie Newman type of guy could go into the Colts. So that makes sense to me. Anyway, at the end of the day, I like him. I think he should. And I'll put it this way. I think he should go the end of the first round to a team that just loves the upside and thinks there's a lot that can be done with him. I think he probably will go mid first, and we'll see what happens. The team probably get excited and trade up for him and grab him, have your guy from the guy of the future if you believe that's who he is and that's what he can be. Certainly has that potential. And as far as rankings, man, it's so hard because it's like, it's kind of a, pick your own adventure story kind of thing. Like what type of guy do you want? Like comparing a Trey Lance to a Mac Jones, it's not the same. It's not the same thing. They're not in the same universe. Like they're two totally different guys. They play the same position. That's the only thing they have in common. Like they're different dudes. And there's a lot to like about one. And there's a lot to like about the other. I lean towards Trey Lance over a Mac Jones. I probably lean towards a Justin Fields over a Trey Lance. I don't know. I think I probably have Trey Lance at 4 at the end of the day. But we'll see what happens. I haven't put my final grade out, and I am not feeling super confident of between like the next 3 quarterbacks after a Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence at 1 and 2 that are like locked and loaded, guaranteed my 1 and 2 guys. And I said that opposite. Trevor Lawrence is my number 1, Zach Wilson number 2, just to be clear. But all right, guys, that is all I have on Trey Lance. Thank you so much for watching. If you have made it this long, guys, you got to do it. You got to hit the button, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Please follow the journey. This channel has been blowing up in the past couple months, and I know it doesn't look like it based on the subs, but like, hey, that's a big number for me, and it's only going to keep getting bigger, and I am very, very excited. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed and gone on this journey with me. I'm very, very appreciative. We're going to be pumping out draft profiles over the next couple weeks, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Peace.